This October and beyond, YouTube Black are unifying different storytellers from different demographics and genres, from gaming to beauty, from London to Lagos, to celebrate Black British culture on the platform. Over the next 30 minutes, I am joined by my incredible guests, Fusions of Culture, aka Laila, Shantae J, and Nicole. And we're going to be demystifying the idea of Black excellence. We're going to be looking at our triumphs and highlighting the bumps of our journey, focusing on championing progression and not perfection, a celebration of our imperfections, mishaps, and just a really honest conversation. So I want to start off by letting our guests introduce themselves. How about we start off with Nicole?
Great. My name is Nicole Krenzel, and I'm a culture producer, creative consultant, and entrepreneur. I am the CEO of Black Girl Festival and also the founder of a platform called Big Sis. My practice involves connecting women, young people, and underrepresented groups to arts, culture, and events.
Love that. And I'm such a huge fan of all three of you, so I'm very excited to have you all here. Let's go next with Shantae.
Hey everyone, my name is Shantae Joseph. I'm a writer and a presenter, also a pole dance enthusiast. I host Channel 4's How Not to Be Racist online series and My Public Me, a podcast by The Face magazine and Sky. Yeah.
James. And then you, Laila, aka Fusion of Cultures. You might hate me doing AKA. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay. Hi guys, I'm Laila. I'm a YouTube content creator. So as Rachel said, I have a channel called Fusion of Cultures where I share all things from natural hair to lifestyle. I'm also a small business owner. I have a wellness brand called Wild Seed Botanicals, and we focus on natural holistic skincare products.
Amazing. And then lastly, my name is Rachel Amma. I am a vegan chef and I have a cookbook, Rachel Amma's Vegan Eats and Share wonderful recipes on my YouTube channel. So to dive into this incredible topic today about Black excellence, I wanted to find out from each of you guys how you felt about the term Black excellence. Does it kind of seem like a badge of honor to celebrate the best of the best, or is it more of a toxic phrase and pushes unrealistic expectations on the wider community? So let's start with you, Nicole. How do you generally feel about the term Black excellence?
Yeah, I think for me, I always believe that, first of all, every Black person is excellent because they're Black, period. And the spectrum of which excellence, I guess, is defined sometimes alongside the term success really sets us apart. Everyone can be excellent in their own right. A working mum who works 9 to 5 and also probably works an evening job is excellent because she's able to juggle so much, as opposed to someone who, like Diane Abbott, for example, who has been pioneering so many voices and people through her work within politics. It falls upon a spectrum simply because, I guess, how we define ourselves. But more and more time, I think, as more Black people, Black women and Black men are becoming more visible within the media space, we're seeing them as being great and excellent. And so I guess the terminology to define that excellence is now being spearheaded. But I definitely believe that everyday people are remarkably excellent just by existing.
Yeah, I know myself personally, the Black excellence term is very kind of like new to me, and growing up as a Black family on the TV in London, you wouldn't really see Black people, and you would naturally, if you saw a Black person, you would kind of feel like champion them. And that was my kind of evolution of looking at Black excellence as a term. I just wondered, Shantae, if you feel like there's more of a pressure to be perfect because of this label, or do you feel like the label is positive or negative? What's your kind of view?
I think I really used to subscribe to this idea of Black excellence quite a lot, particularly when I was a university student or I was in institutions where my effort and work could be recognized and accredited through like grades or awards. And I think as soon as I left those institutions and I had to just be my own adult self, this idea of Black excellence and the idea of seeing excellence as something that is like bestowed upon you from a predominantly white institution or organization, it just started to crumble because it just didn't make sense to me anymore. And thinking about Black excellence and thinking about the ways in which I was failing, because, you know, as much as I had a grade to say I was great then, I had nothing to say that now, and everything else I did just didn't feel that great. Like Black excellence really stifled me, and so now I completely have completely disinvested from it, because I just don't see it as something that is I guess progressive enough. And like, I 100% agree with Nicole. Like, I am a big believer in like Black mediocrity, and I think we should stop like comparing ourselves to others, in the sense that, you know, well, if a Black person did that, then blah blah blah. If they do and they are thriving, then great.
Yeah, and I guess the sense is it can push an unrealistic expectation on the term Black excellence, rather than just kind of celebrating.
Similarly to what everybody said so far, I do feel like it can kind of create like a certain level of pressure. And a lot of the time, it's pressure that we end up putting on ourselves. So I have a small Black business, and I remember not too long ago, my nephew was kind of helping me over the summer. And I remember he packed something wrong, and I gave him this long speech about the fact that because we are a Black business, like we represent all other Black businesses, and everybody grades us differently, and we have to be excellent, and we have to work hard, and we have to be the best, and we can't fall short. Um, so it's a lot of pressure to carry, and sometimes it's just like, why can't it just be a business? Why can't, you know, why can't I just do what everybody else is doing and do it in my own way, and just be okay with how I'm doing it and perfect it in my own way, without kind of wrapping it in this kind of shroud of like Blackness, but a weight that I'm carrying for the whole community.
It's really refreshing to hear all three of you's opinions, because it's so similar. Like, even being given the term Black excellence myself, I was like, oh, because there's that pressure, because I think in today's society, it's only now that more Black businesses, there's more Black appreciation slowly, and it does put a lot of pressure on individuals.
Yeah, my mum always is that woman who I've always looked up to when it comes to defining success. Someone who, you know, moved her family over from one continent to another and has been working hard ever since to make it work, to be a provider, to be an educator, but also to be that kind of role model of someone who has set up many businesses, who has trialed stuff and watched them fail, but also has been doing it from a place of nurturing and caring for her community and everyone around her. I always focus on the lessons that my mum has taught me, humility and strength and resilience. And so I carry that, I guess, with me everywhere I go. So yeah, my mom.
Number one, it definitely has to be my mom for a similar reason. Um, but in terms of creators, I think one person that I've always admired, just in terms of like work ethic and just kind of generally being a go-getter, I'd have to say Patricia. I've always kind of looked up to the fact that she's strived and she's created so many businesses for herself and opportunities for herself outside of just kind of being a content creator. I think even kind of going back to the original question when I talked about that responsibility, I also feel like because I also represent, not do I just, I represent the Black community, but I also represent like Ghanaians. I also represent Ghanaian immigrants who are of a similar age who have come here. And I feel like my success, my success, or like, you know, whatever I do is like a representation of them, and it's putting them in a better light almost. So yeah.
So the second topic is really about feeling the pressure all the time. As poignant figures in each of all of your own lanes, you're kind of defined as examples of Black excellence, some would say, and it adds a extra layer of pressure fuel. I know I feel pressure all the time on my YouTube channel. When I first started, there wasn't many vegan British YouTubers, let alone Black British vegan YouTubers, and I did feel the pressure. I was upload, and I wanted to create a platform that would help other people kind of see me and come forward and kind of share the experience, and it's just a lot of pressure.
Yeah, definitely. I guess for anyone who's a young creative or who's starting a business and who's trying to make ends meet, hustling, that's kind of how I started out. I've always felt the pressure to kind of make things work from a financial perspective, but also, I guess, from a customer perspective, you want to be able to make people feel that they are happy with what you're selling. The way to alleviate that, I guess, my first tip and trick is to make a list of all your achievements, all the things that you are doing that you feel very proud of, and ensure that every time that you feel that pressure to be something that you're not, focus on the things that you are and focus on the things that you have done. It really, really helps you set the mindset for the work that you want to do, and also just allows you to focus on yourself and not focus on what people think and say.
I absolutely love that. I'm taking that advice myself. I feel like you gave that to me personally and I needed it today. What about you, Layla? Do you have any tips and tricks?
Yeah, I would definitely say, especially as content creators, I think sometimes there's a pressure to be consistent. And actually, that consistency can also kind of morph into like a certain level of perfectionism that can be unhealthy mentally. So, one thing I would definitely say is take a step back. It's okay to just take a step back. And sometimes actually taking a step back gives you renewed perspective and you can come back and do better and be better and present yourself in a way that's pleasing to you. And then also just for mental clarity, it's very necessary.
I definitely feel like being able to have a plan and sticking to that plan, tweaking when necessary, but always having an idea of what it is that you want to do. It's really important to be confident in your own lane, because looking at other people is going to put a lot of pressure on yourself to constantly put out content that might not even be natural or relevant to you. So as long as you know the aims of the stuff that you're doing and you have a plan and an idea and a schedule, then I think you should be fine.
I want to kind of dive into your own personal experiences. If there's been a time, especially in today's world has been like crazy for everyone. If there's been a moment where you've needed that recharge, you've needed that space, and what you've actually done and what's really helped you.
Yeah, especially this summer, I literally felt like I had to take a step back. And I think at the height of everything that was happening online, I found that there was a huge pressure for everybody to have something to say. Um, and for a long time, I didn't know what to say, not because I had nothing to say, but I just didn't know how to word it. And for me, just taking a step back and literally just taking a step back was really helpful. And doing the small things in life that bring me pleasure, which is my plants. So I actually ended up doing a video, just like a self-care video on me taking care of my plants. And I posted it and I said, I don't have anything for you except my small piece of peace. And I hope that it brings other people comfort. Um, and is something that I rely on a lot, which is just taking a step back and just finding my footing again.
I know I struggled myself in the height of the summer, and I gained a lot of followers on my platforms because I had messages about not having enough diverse cookbooks and people kind of looking to me as a Black cookbook author. And I was kind of bombarded with this kind of extra pressure that I didn't ask for myself, especially because I was pregnant. It was all like really, really intense.
It felt like good to be recognized, but also sad that I'm being recognized at the hardship of someone else, at someone else's death. That's the only reason why people are paying attention to me. And so that was really, really difficult. But I guess during this whole period and just the lockdown in general, like I made a lot of changes. I ended up quitting my job so I could focus more on writing and more on the things that I love doing. I like packed up my stuff. I moved in with my grandma. Like I completely upended my life because it just showed me that things needed to change and I wasn't working in a way that was healthy. And so I think my advice to people would be, if first of all, if you are that person people are going to and they're trying to use you as an educational tool, remember that you are not a textbook. You are not Google. You are still a person. Your whole life doesn't have to be dedicated to the education of others. You can do things that benefit yourself. And secondly, if you're finding the whole period difficult or you're struggling, just find ways in your life to lighten the load, and don't be afraid to say no to things or don't be afraid to cut things off.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's one of those times where there is this heightened exposure, I guess, for Black creators or writers or anyone that has a profile. But I was super against that. I didn't want any of the followers. I stayed absolutely quiet when that all happened because I didn't want people to suddenly be like, oh, okay, yeah, definitely follow and just bombard her with everything. Instead, I just focused on something that I was really passionate about, which is interior designing. So not only did I get excited about plants, just like Layla, I was also just thinking about styling and comfort and thinking about how I can make the spaces around me more functional or multifunctional as I'm always in every room now. So I just kind of allowed myself to enjoy that process and not really focus on like what was happening online, but instead focus on the physical space around me, and I loved it.
How do you really know when you're making the progress? I know myself, I am really hard on myself on feeling like I have to do more, that I personally can't really see when I'm making progress until the end of the year. I kind of round up what I've done. I've gone, oh, actually, I've done a lot of stuff this year and I'm really proud of myself. Layla, what do you kind of figure on that one?
Yeah, this one is an interesting one for me because it's something that I've thought about before, and I think sometimes we end up being so hard on ourselves that it's even hard to see how far we've come. And then sometimes it can be quite elusive as well when you've defined success in your mind, but it's like something that consistently changes as you attain things, as you move up, as you do things, and you feel like, okay, I'm achieving things, I'm ticking my goals, but yet there's still a part of you that almost kind of says you haven't done enough and there's still more to be done. And just like you, it's usually maybe like a year later, or at the end of the year, I look back and I'm like, okay, I've actually done something, I've actually achieved something, and I can be proud of myself.
I think for me, it's when I have written something that is maybe out of my comfort zone in terms of like topic or area of expertise. It is about being in a space or doing something where I feel quite nervous or I feel quite like, unfamiliar. And then I definitely know that I'm making progress because it's something that's completely new to me. And even though I may feel anxious about it, it's a new opportunity.
I know when I'm making progress when another young Black girl is either empowered, inspired, or is able to move through an industry because of the work that I do. When conversations around me are changing and evolving and growing, when the tables that I sit on are shaking, I love to do that. When I'm taking up space in spaces where I'm not meant to be, I know that I'm making progress just by being in that room. I feel like I make progress, and I know I'm making progress when not just myself, but the community that around me is also growing and elevating and winning too. And I guess sometimes when you focus on just like what you're doing individually and whether or not you're making it, it's really hard to know whether things are changing or not. So I usually look around to lots of the women I admire in the industry and see how they've been able to move through spaces to know that real progress is being made.
So I wanted to talk to you guys about how important the mistakes are in your journey. Often when we look up to people, they're kind of superhuman. We don't see their setbacks, the mistakes, anything that went wrong, especially on social media. We kind of just see this perfect vision and it sends a lot of pressure to onlookers. I wanted to know how important these imperfections in your own journey are in creating the whole success around the success you guys have created. So Shantae, what about you? What are your mistakes that have turned into success?
Let me tell you something. I am the queen of L's. I have every L, uppercase, lowercase, underscore, bold, italic, you name it, I have it. Like and because I've been online for so long, I've made mistakes and they've always been incredibly visible. So I have never really had the privacy of having an L in like silence, basically. Because if you're hyper visible and you mess up, there's thousands of people watching you, and some people actually want you to fail. But I think the W from that, or the win from that, or the lesson from that, is being able to take accountability from when you've messed up. Do your apologies, do what you have to do, and then continue to keep it moving. We are not defined by the bad things that happen to us only. And I think it's really easy when you go through a hard time or you mess up, or I write
write something that's a bit off key, or I do something that people think is a bit crazy, as long as I can acknowledge that and I keep on forward and I keep on moving forward, I'm not defined by that, then it's okay. But honestly, in terms of L's, I've been through it all, but that doesn't actually define you. It's just part of your journey.
I know myself personally, when I started YouTube, I didn't study anything about filming, any media. I didn't know how to film anything. So I had like a very basic camera, a very basic microphone in my kitchen, where there's a kitchen. There's all this different feedback. When I watch back my first videos, they're atrocious. The sound is terrible. Everything, in my opinion, is awful. But I needed to start. And if you don't start, you don't grow. You don't reach that level of success without just putting yourself out there and starting. And I know for me, a lot of people come to me about YouTube and they're like, oh, but I don't have the best equipment. I don't have the best this, that, or that. And I'm like, well, unless you start with what you've got, you're never going to continue to grow. So you just have to kind of just go for it and start. So that's my own personal advice to people that want to start on like a YouTube platform. Yours is probably similar, Laila, because you're on YouTube as well.
Yeah, extremely similar. I mean, I think at the time I started doing YouTube videos, I used to film it on like maybe my Samsung or something. Um, and then I moved on to my webcam, and now things have changed so much. So yeah, just like you said, a lot of these things, if you don't start, you definitely won't know. And sometimes actually starting allows you to be able to look back and see the lessons and the things that you can take from it and grow from it and progress forward.
Yeah, these imperfections are how we get there. What about you, Nicole?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with running a business, you are set back with so many challenges, so many L's. I'm a huge advocate on really sharing your story and sharing your journey and letting people know that it's not easy, showing them the hard times, not just the fun times. And yeah, when it comes to those wins, you feel even more empowered that you know what you're doing once you're able to plow through all the hard bits and start to kind of really live with the good bits. So I'm the kind of person who I have taken a lot of L's, but they have only been incredible lessons to kind of build the business that I have now.
Where do we begin? I'm joking now. So yeah, I think a graduate job that I had, I actually got let go of because I was like writing whilst like doing freelance writing whilst doing that job. And for me, it kind of solidified the idea that I enjoy being a writer. I enjoy being a content creator. I enjoy having a platform. I enjoy having opinions. And I was in a space that didn't allow me to do that. And so I felt bad about myself because I was like, damn, like, all my friends said, 2 years into their graduate schemes and blah, blah, blah. And here I am like starting from zero again. But honestly, it was one of the best things to happen to me because I really invested in myself as a creator and as somebody who hosts and presents and all that kind of stuff. And the opportunities I've seen now, they're unimaginable. And I would have never, ever been able to take up half of these things had I been in that job, because they would have been like, nope, you're not doing that. Nope, 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 nope.
Mine's very similar. I wanted to work in the music industry and I applied for loads of internships, had loads of interviews, didn't get any of them, cried about it. But then it had the space that made me start my YouTube channel and create a whole new career that I absolutely love, that I actually merge music and cooking, which is my cookbook. I have playlists and songs. So that would be my double back around loss turn into, yes, we're winning. What about you, Nicole?
I guess for me, I came out of a job that I was actually unfortunately let go from for having really poor mental health, and applied for this incredible job working in marketing for the Tate, which I didn't get, and I felt really, really low about because I felt as if like there was something wrong, and maybe my well-being not being so great had really kind of stifled me getting that position. And I really felt like it was on me, like it was probably one of the hardest periods to really take in terms of rejection. And I guess, how's it going now? I currently sit on the board for Tate, representing Tate collectives, talking more about young people at Tate and representing them within the gallery. So it's a real kind of how it started, how's it going moment, and yeah, I guess it's one of those lessons into blessings. Yeah.
Well, what I've loved hearing so far is I think there's like so much similarity in what everyone said, and mine's quite similarly. I used to work in digital marketing, and I remember leaving, and there was like a specific beauty brand that I really wanted to work with. They had a position, I applied for it, and actually in the process of applying for the role, I kind of had a look through like what they were doing, their marketing, and it gave me like a brand new perspective because this was a brand that I really looked up to, but I realized how much they didn't represent me. At all. They hardly had any people of color, any black women, in any of their marketing, any of their advertising. And in that moment, I realized that this is a space that essentially I really want to be in. And I haven't seen that many brands that represent me at all. So that's actually what led me to actually go ahead fully, and launch my brand. So that was a big L to a massive win for me.
Thank you all to all my amazing guests for sharing their stories. They are so inspirational. I hope they have given you some inspiration. They even have for myself. It's always great hearing similarities and struggles and how you don't have to be perfect. It's all about the progression. Make sure you stay tuned because there's going to be a lot more discussions for this YouTube Black. And it's really amazing to share these stories. So cheers to more.